short reenactment of my feelings towards Overlord Season 3. That's about right. Hello, my denizens of the anime basement. I am Shannen, your wonderfully wacky anime misfit here, suffering from a chronic case of getting your dryer lint stuck on your favorite sweater. Atosis. Oh, it's quite a complicated illness that I'm sure that none of you have experienced before. It's pretty rare. But the real issue is, can you tell that I'm tilted though? I'm so tilted that for the rest of this video, Lamp, I want you at random points of this video, without warning, place footage of wait a minute. I know, emus and various as seen on TV commercials for weird products. Because if this show doesn't care about certain things, then so won't I.
It's Style Snaps from Hemming My Way, the world's first snap and hem solution.
For now, I want to take you on a journey to the Anime Overlord and explain where my enlightenment truly comes from. Get the lights! Thank you. Take a moment to put yourself in our main character's shoes. I've spent many hours grinding, communicating with other players, and even creating your own OCs with paragraph after paragraph of flavor text. This precious time in this game gave you contentment in this real, cold world. Despite others arguing it could have been used on other things like, actually I don't know, taxes or whatever. So it's no surprise that when this favorite game of yours shuts down, you would spend its last days going down memory lane, rambling about the good old days while other players left to their own devices. While it is important to understand why others would leave so soon, it's also important to remember your feelings as you just wish this experience didn't have to end. So what if it didn't? What if, for say, the game world trapped you in here after the stroke of midnight and you just happened to be the only player left in an already high-level established guild that, from an outsider's perspective, looked like the catacombs of a powerful undead king, and you just happened to be a highly skilled warrior yourself, left alone with the NPCs now came to life from the flavor text your friend spent years figuring out. Until you realized 23 minutes later, you bullshitted one of the NPCs into being madly in love with you because it, the game was ending, and you had no regrets, leaving in its wake a world abandoned as your sandbox. So what do you do? Take over the world, baby! Woo! Overlord is like the turducken you see at your Thanksgiving for the very first time. Oh, you knew it existed. You just thought it was just another point of spectacle. But when you look inside, you notice how robust the dish really is. I think what sells this series in a post-isekai-ridden anime world is the villainous perspective the show molds our main protagonist into marvelously. It's not the first time we've seen a villain or anti-hero as the protagonist. However, it is a show girthy in its setup and execution of events, which leads to the show feeling more calculating by letting the little details really shine through as the series treads on. The main point of reference in particular is the protagonist Ainz. We do not know his human name or any other information as the player, besides how he sounds inside and through our anime knowledge of this type of stuck in the RPG protagonist. The first nuggets of info that allude to our expectations being deferred comes in Season 1, when we learn that upon the game locking him inside, he has literally fused with a skeleton-esque character, with all the pros and cons that come with the creature's psychology and physiology. Most notably, the suppression of outward emotions. While in Season 1, his emotional check would go off multiple times, but it started to become less frequent in the later seasons, to the point that the Ainz of Season 1 and the Ainz of Season 3 were very contrasting in mindsets. Internally, that is, since he does use his real voice. Yes, we could go over how as a role player, he sticks to the mindset that would better reflect who he is supposed to be, for out of duty and respect for his NPCs that were fostered by his guildmates. Which, by the way, I love how interpretive they can be as they take that isekai trope of always loving your lord and master to to the other extreme. Like how some NPCs question the morals that were implemented in them by their creator that go in conflict with Ainz's orders, while other floor guardians are birthed to more feelings of abandonment and hatred to their creators, leaving them behind in a place where, from their perspective, is some place they should belong. Albedo, Sabus, and Demiurge are prime examples of floor guardians taking their own interpretations of Ainz's teachings and commands. The other floor guardians, in comparison, still have their own mindsets that don't get drowned up by the trope faithfully, because isekai. Maybe it's because Ainz's such an overpowered ruler, or maybe it's their programming that added to this wonderful world building and story structure of events being told. I like this series best when it uses those role-playing character elements to make the journey as unique as it is. It's a perspective similar to what Log Horizon was doing, but took it to more of a love of the RPG mechanics and social structures instead of how a role-player's influence and situational dialogue could change the world. And as someone who does roleplay with close friends, I highly appreciate it. Unless the show does that thing it tends to do occasionally of being aware that it's popular as it treats its viewers how it damn wants to. The major con I have with this series is how its smug awareness of its popularity and knowledge of what we want to see is used as a catalyst to put each season in a hostage situation.
Flashbang out!
That arrogantly and disservices the plot. The anime is only good as long as the show keeps going, otherwise it's incomplete due to how it's structured. So far at the time of writing, a multitude of things from season 1 still haven't been resolved or even touched on, which now brings up my opening sequence for this video. Yeah, I was pissed, and still am pissed at how it just waved its series in front of my face like a bad harem anime advertising campaign. Oh, you want more Overlord anime? Well, buy the original source material, and you know my stance on that already. And yes, I do know many anime do this too, but how Overlord as a series does it is counterintuitive to a watcher's experience. Everything is a domino effect, as this is one of the prime examples of anime that show flaws with a seasonal format. Because we don't know if we will get more seasons, we might never see Ainz conquer the world or face the weird organization that was teased in the first episode of the first season, or if Albedo will finally get some. And you know that I'm right because of the slow f***ing pacing, the added crummy CG, and a large cast of characters who get lost in the narrative shuffle. I mean, if this show only focused on Ainz and his floor guardians, that I wouldn't really see much of an issue with. But because it wants to be that grand epic, we get more highlights on other factions. To their credit, 90% of these introduced characters are fun to watch and grow. But if there's no time for half of them, what's the f***ing point? Oh, I know exactly what the point is. Because the show knows what it's doing to get you hooked up on the fanfare only to suck us dry later, like some microtransaction nonsense with our view as currency. Ugh. You know what? No. Pause the video, because I'm going to prove my point. I dare you, the audience member, to skip to this point in the video, which starts presentation, while I show the rest of you this random footage of grass for 1 whole minute. I might put something there, I might not. Whether you read it in the comments below to spoil yourself or not is up to you, because Overlord is an entertaining show, but my god, does it hurt me knowing that it's aware of its success, and that's just hurting us all. Anyways, I can't think of anything else to say other than Madhouse, you did okay, but it could have been better in my opinion. The biggest thing going for the show visually is its character designs. I would say its set pieces too, but most of the time the setting was either murky enough for the characters to pop out from, or there was nothing really interesting, and honestly, too generic for anything else. So the character designs are where it stands. I especially like the expressions on Albedo because it clearly displays her raw, unfiltered feelings for Ainz and the pain of the other players who had left her when they quote-unquote abandoned the game. While Ainz, in comparison, may not have active facial expressions because, you know, he's a skeleton with suppressed emotions, and yet I appreciate the nods we do get when he's heightened in anger or surprise. And frankly, the 4 Guardians and the Mage just look really cool, especially Sheltier and that bug maid chick. Extra mention also goes to the designs of Princess Rainer for things I'm not gonna say here, and I'll let you guys figure it out for yourself. Though my problems with everything else stems from how lazy things seem. As said before, backgrounds were either too generic or too plain to really care about. Fight scenes just seemed more simplistic than they come off to be. And of course, the really noticeable CG, all encompassing the fact that it gets worse in the later seasons, like they kind of just stopped caring because they know people will watch it anyway. I don't know how to better explain it without sounding like it's the worst thing ever, because it's really not. It just seems lazy for the large audience that will consume it. This point also segues into the music, where Season 1's soundtrack was pretty fun to listen to on its own, but ironically I didn't pay much attention to it in its second and third run. Maybe it's because it wasn't attention grabbing by that point, or I personally lost interest in the shuffle. The one saving grace in the music tracks for me was the openings and endings, as it greatly illustrates in my brain what the show's tone desires to be. It's spooky, epic, and resounding of a group of people that will just eat everything in their path to get what they want. However, the end visuals aren't anything special, and it's just pretty stills. Yeah, that's what it has. Pretty stills. Look, we're almost done, so before we book it, I'm just gonna show a random Juicy Fruit commercial from the 1990s because I need some pep in my step.
It's a packet full of sunshine, the bright and shiny flavor you can carry along the way, so reach and for.
After writing like 3 pages of this, I started out tilted and ended done with it all. I do know I enjoy Overlord as a series, but I can't ignore how incomplete the anime is. Not to mention the fact that with more seasons, the more it seems like the series cares less about plot points and more about grandeur and epic moments. Maybe when the show actually completes, there will be more of a cohesiveness, but until then, I'll just keep hoping, though my patience wears thin. So after 10 minutes of grass watching, 5 minutes of watering, and 2 minutes of accidentally kicking my foot into a tree and screaming painfully, I award seasons 1 through 3 of Overlord with the recommendation to try it and a watchability rating of T14. The addendum is that if and only if the show completes, will it upgrade to a full-on try it rating, but it's staying where it is, no ifs, ands, or buttes. As for some anime alternatives, let's do 3 because of all the holy conquests as a trinity. The first will be Log Horizon for the gamer that wants a show about more mechanics and character builds. Next, here's one of my guilty pleasures in Saga the Tanya of Evil, because I feel it does a similar dark tone in a much more focused way, as we have a character who seems overpowered but can still be f***ed over by the world, which still keeps things fresh off a series like Overlord where he has no threats. But if you want to break from all the epic fights and large stakes altogether, then look this way towards The Devil is a Part-Timer, which is essentially a reverse of the Demon Lord coming to the real world in order to utilize the corporate power of McDonald's to rule the world. If you still haven't seen this comedy, I don't know what you're doing. So I hope one of these will throw a bone in your direction. Okay, so I want to do something different and end this video by asking you guys, what do you want to see coming out for my Patreon rewards? Right now, the upkeep is getting quite dull, and my previous stance of not wanting to put anything behind a paywall is still a personal concern of mine, but I am feeling like it's not going to appeal to anything or add any urgency onto why you should support me on Patreon besides the goodness of your hearts. So for anyone who has any ideas for what rewards would be suitable for Patreon but not overblown to the point where non-patrons miss out, would be good indeed. Commenting down below to this video or on my Twitter at Shannen will do just fine. I want to beat out that Social Blade projection that says I won't make it to 1K until February of 2020. I will prove it wrong. Though whatever the outcome may be, I hope that for those that like my content will subscribe all the more. I never know how to end these things, so I'll just leave it up to fate. See you next time. Shannen out!
Has the strength to pull this fully loaded 80,000-pound tractor trailer.